The rain assaulted the taxi window like a judge who already knew the verdict. I pressed my forehead to the cold glass, watching Milan smear into watery neon and pale streetlights. My fingers were still shaking as I peeled the bills apart, wet paper clinging to wet paper, counting the same number like repetition could turn it into a plan. 340. That was what I'd managed to take from the emergency stash tucked inside my grandmother's cookbook, between stained recipes and handwritten notes, before Gregor came home early, keys rattling, voice already sharp with suspicion. I hadn't even zipped my bag properly. I just moved, grabbed, left. 18 months in his apartment had taught me to recognize the shift in the air before a storm. At first, he'd called it love, his constant checking, his just making sure you're safe, his questions that never felt like questions. Then the sweetness rotted. The affection became supervision. The concern became interrogation. And somehow, without me noticing exactly when, my life shrank until it fit inside the space he allowed. "Signorina," the driver said, and I blinked as the taxi slowed. We arrived. The hotel rose in front of us like something designed to keep ordinary lives out. Glass, steel, gold lights spilling from tall windows. The kind of place where people wore coats that didn't get wet, where umbrellas appeared like magic, where no one hurried because no one was afraid. Too expensive, completely insane, which was the whole point. Gregor would search my friends. He'd search my job. He'd search the neighborhoods that made sense for a woman like me. Cash poor, soaked, carrying a cheap duffel and a future made of panic. He wouldn't think to look for me somewhere, built for executives and diplomats and wives with quiet smiles. I paid the driver too much, because I needed him gone, needed the street to stop feeling like an open stage. My sneakers squeaked on marble as I stepped into the lobby. Warm air wrapped around me, scented like leather, citrus, and expensive calm. For a second it was disorienting, like walking into another person's life by mistake. The receptionist looked up. She was elegant in a way that didn't try to prove itself. Silver threaded through a neat bun, lipstick that matched her nails, eyes that saw everything without showing it. I knew exactly what she saw. A young woman in a soaked jacket, hair plastered to my head, mascara probably wrecked from crying in the cab, a duffel that screamed escape instead of holiday. "Good evening," she said smoothly. "How may I help you?" "I need a room." My voice came out steadier than my body felt. "Just for tonight." Her fingers moved across the keyboard. No judgment, no pity, just quiet efficiency. "We have one available, 280 euros. My stomach dropped. That was nearly all of it. That was safety priced like a luxury item. But what was the alternative? Sleeping in a station where Gregor could find me, walking streets with nowhere to go, calling the shelter and hanging up again because I couldn't bear to say the words out loud. "I'll take it," I said, like it didn't hurt. I counted the bills carefully, forcing my hands to obey me. As the last note left my fingers, my phone buzzed. Gregor. My heart clenched before I even opened it. "Where are you?" "Valentina, this isn't funny. Come home. Don't make me come looking." I stared at the last message until the screen blurred. My throat felt tight, like a hand had closed around it from the inside. The receptionist's eyes flicked, quick, professional, to the phone, then back to my face. "Is everything all right, signorina?" she asked, as if asking about the weather. I built a smile out of splinters. "Fine, just a long day." She slid a key card toward me. "Room 412. Elevators to your right." Her voice softened by half a shade. "If you need anything at all, please call the desk." The way she said it all made it more than hospitality. It was a door she was leaving open without forcing me to walk through it. The elevator ride felt endless. The mirrored walls showed a woman I barely recognized. Pale, hollow-eyed, lips pressed together like she was holding herself in one piece. When had I become someone who looked like she was running even while standing still? The room was clean, quiet, impossible. Cream walls, gray bedding. A desk by the window facing a rain-dark city. I locked the door, threw the deadbolt, and shoved a chair beneath the handle like a paranoid child in a scary movie. Only then did I breathe. The shower was so hot it bordered on pain, but I welcomed it. Heat washed away the rain, the smell of the taxi, the phantom pressure of Gregor's fingers on my arm that morning. Too tight, too casual, his voice calm while his grip said something else. When I stepped out, wrapped in the hotel's thick robe, I saw the bruise clearly for the first time. Yellowing at the edges, purple at the center. Finger marks disguised as an accident. He was always careful. He always chose places clothing could cover. My phone buzzed again and again until the screen looked like a swarm. "I'm worried. Answer me." "I talked to Marco. He saw you leave. You can't survive without me." That one hit the deepest. Not because it was true, because some broken part of me still feared it might be. I turned the phone off. The silence that followed was both relief and terror, like cutting a wire and wondering if you just saved yourself or triggered the bomb. I should have slept. I tried, but my body refused to relax, like it didn't trust quiet. I stood by the window watching Milan move below, cars gliding like insects in the rain. Somewhere out there, Gregor was searching. He wouldn't accept absence. He'd turn it into a hunt. I had just slipped under the duvet when voices in the hallway snapped me awake. Male voices, low and fast, Italian tumbling too quickly to catch. Footsteps paused outside my door. My breath stopped. A beat of silence. Then the steps continued. I told myself it was nothing. Guests, staff, normal hotel sounds. Still, I dragged the chair tighter under the handle and lay back down like someone pretending sleep could protect them. Morning came pale and thin through rain-streaked glass. I turned my phone on with dread crawling up my ribs. 23 missed calls, 14 texts, 3 voicemails, 1 message from an unknown number. I know where you are, coming to bring you home where you belong. The phone slipped in my hands. He found me. How? There were hundreds of hotels, hundreds of streets. Unless Marco, our neighbor, his friend, had given him something. A taxi company, a name, a detail. Panic yanked me upright. I stuffed clothes into my bag, fingers clumsy with fear. I needed to leave now before he arrived. But where would I go with 60 euros left and nowhere safe? The hotel phone rang, shrill in the quiet. Once, twice. Again. I stared at it like it could bite, then grabbed it. Signorina Ricci, the receptionist said. Her voice was steady but different now, sharper, like she was balancing professionalism against urgency. There is a gentleman in the lobby asking for you. He says he is your boyfriend. My mouth went dry. Don't tell him I'm here. A pause. Then quietly. He has shown a photograph. He knows you are registered. My vision tunneled. I gripped the desk to keep from swaying. I am calling security, she continued. But, Signorina, you should speak with management. There is a service elevator on your floor, East Wing. It will allow you to leave discreetly. The word management didn't sound like a manager. It sounded like someone with authority beyond a name tag. Okay, I whispered. I moved fast, bag over my shoulder, heart punching against my ribs as I slipped into the corridor. The carpet muted my steps. My ears strained for voices, for Gregor, for anything. East Wing, service elevator. I turned a corner and nearly collided with a man stepping out of a door marked private. He was dressed like he belonged to this building in a way I didn't. Charcoal suit, crisp shirt, hair combed back with precise control. Tall, broad-shouldered, composed. The kind of man who looked expensive without trying. His eyes landed on me and didn't soften. You're running, he said. Not a question, an observation, like stating the time. I need the service elevator, I managed. My voice betrayed me, thin, shaky. He glanced toward the main corridor. Somewhere in the distance I heard shouting, Gregor's voice angry and familiar. I know who is downstairs, the man said calmly. He stepped aside and indicated the elevator behind him. Come. Every instinct screamed that stepping into an elevator with a stranger was insanity. But Gregor's voice rose again, closer now, and fear made the decision for me. I stepped in. The doors shut. The man didn't touch any button with hesitation. He moved like someone who owned every inch of space he entered. The elevator descended in silence and the air felt too small for my breathing. Thank you, I whispered, because I didn't know what else to do with the terror lodged in my throat. His mouth curved by a fraction, humorless. I haven't helped you yet, Signorina. I've only delayed what is coming. The elevator opened into a staff corridor. Harsh lights, industrial floors, doors without decoration. He guided me with a hand at my back, firm, steering, but not forcing, toward an unmarked door. Inside was an office that didn't match the hallway. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a fireplace with real flames, leather chairs, shelves of books in multiple languages. It felt like the private den of someone who didn't have to explain himself. Sit, he said, gesturing to a chair near the fire. You're shaking. I hadn't noticed, but once he said it, my body betrayed me. Tremors in my hands, my knees unstable. He poured amber liquid into a glass and pressed it into my palm. Drink. It's morning, I protested weakly. I'm aware, he said, as if time was irrelevant. Consider it medicine. The whiskey burned, but the warmth steadied me enough to breathe. Who are you? I asked. He sat across from me, posture perfect, gaze direct. Alessio Lombardi. Understanding hit like a drop. You own this hotel. Yes. So the receptionist hadn't called a manager. She'd called the man whose name made managers move. My boyfriend, I started. Your ex, Alessio corrected without blinking. He is currently in my lobby telling my staff you are unstable, that you stole from him. that you belong to him. His voice chilled on the last words. He's inventive. I'll give him that. Shame flooded me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring trouble here. I'll leave. And go where? He asked, mild and merciless. Do you have somewhere safe? I looked away because the answer was humiliating. He leaned forward slightly, not aggressive, but focused. Valentina Ricci, 26, works part-time at a gallery, lives in Isola with Gregor Sokolov, no family in Milan. My head snapped up. How do you? It's my business to know who sleeps under my roof, he said evenly, especially when they arrive paying cash for a room they can't afford, wearing fear like perfume. I bristled. That doesn't give you the right to investigate me. No, he agreed, but it gives me the ability to help you correctly. If you want help. I swallowed. Why would you help a stranger? A flicker crossed his eyes. Something personal, gone almost immediately. I dislike men who think terror is romance. It's bad for the city, bad for women, bad for my patients. Outside, somewhere beyond those walls, Gregor was still shouting my name like a claim. Alessio's gaze pinned me. He won't stop, will he? The certainty in the question cracked something in me. I didn't answer because my silence was the answer. What if you didn't leave? He asked. I can't afford. I'm not speaking of money, he interrupted softly. I'm speaking of an arrangement. The word arrangement sat between us like a glass set on the edge of a table. One wrong movement and it would shatter. Every warning I'd ever learned tried to rise. Men with power didn't offer help for free. Not in Milan. Not anywhere. Strings were always attached. They just came wrapped in silk instead of rope. What kind of arrangement? I asked, forcing my voice steady. Alessia watched me for a beat too long, as if measuring whether I'd bolt. This hotel is hosting several private functions over the next few weeks. Openings, auctions, corporate gatherings, high-profile guests who require finesse. He tilted his head slightly. I need someone who understands culture, someone who can move in a room full of money without becoming apologetic for existing. That's not me, I said automatically, because Gregor's voice had trained me to deny myself before anyone else could. Alessio's mouth twitched as if he'd expected that. You have a degree in art history. You've worked in a gallery. You know how to speak about beauty without turning it into a transaction. His gaze sharpened. And you need time. Time. The one thing I couldn't buy with 60 euros. How much does it pay? I asked, hating that I had to. 2,000 a week. 3 weeks. He said it like a fact, not a lure. Room and meals included. The number hit like a shove. Enough to vanish. Enough to start over. Enough to breathe without counting coins. Why? I asked again. Why so much? Because I'm not interested in hiring someone desperate enough to lie, he said. And because if you're going to disappear after, you'll need real resources, not fantasies. The bluntness disarmed me more than charm would have. And the catch? I said. Alessio leaned back, folding one leg over the other with predatory ease. The catch is visibility. These events are photographed, mentioned in society pages. Your ex will see you. He'll know you're here. My stomach tightened. So you want to use me as bait? I want to remove his illusion of power, Alessio replied, voice colder now. Men like him survive on fear. They shrink women until leaving feels impossible. They turn love into a cage. A sharp laugh escaped me, more of a crack than humor. I feel pretty caged. Feeling trapped isn't the same as being trapped, he said. Then he stood and extended his hand, palm open. You got into that taxi. You walked into my hotel alone. You're sitting here arguing terms instead of surrendering. That isn't weakness. It's survival. I stared at his hand. Working for him meant staying inside a spotlight. It meant trusting a stranger who knew too much and spoke like consequences were tools he kept neatly organized. But it also meant 3 weeks where Gregor couldn't drag me back by force or hunger or shame. I put my hand in his. His grip was warm, firm, decisive, not possessive, not gentle. A contract made of pressure and intention. Good, he said, releasing me as if he hadn't just shifted the axis of my life. Then we proceed. He moved to his desk and produced papers with unsettling speed, like he'd expected my yes. Standard employment agreement, confidentiality, conduct. He pushed it across. Read it. I don't do business with people who sign blindly. I scanned the document. It was surprisingly clean. No ugliness hidden in fine print. No ownership disguised as employment. Confidentiality, yes. But that was expected in a building like this. What exactly am I not supposed to discuss? I asked, tapping the clause. Guest identities, conversations, anything you overhear, Alessio said evenly. My clients value privacy. I signed, each letter of my name feeling like a quiet revolt, a proof that my hand belonged to me. Room 806 is yours for the duration, he said. A suite, and I'll have your belongings moved. I don't have much. Then it won't take long. By the time I returned upstairs, the hotel had already begun to feel like a controlled dream. Staff moved my duffel with careful politeness. My new keycard opened doors I didn't deserve to touch. Suite 806 had windows that made Milan look like a painting instead of a threat. The bathroom alone could have been its own apartment. My phone was a grenade on the table. I turned it on anyway, because fear doesn't disappear just because you avoid it. Messages flooded in like a tide. He'd called my job. He'd called my boss. He'd called me childish. Then he'd called me beautiful. And the final message, an hour old, made my skin go tight. I'm not leaving Milan without you. You're mine. I blocked the number, then blocked it again when he used a new one. Cutting him off felt like severing a rope while dangling over water. Freedom, but also the terrifying knowledge that nothing was holding me now except my own grip. That evening, a boutique manager downstairs dressed me like I belonged in a room I'd never been allowed to enter. A midnight blue dress that shimmered like rain in streetlight. Heels that changed how I stood. Fabric that didn't apologize. Signor Lombardi prefers elegance, the woman said while pinning my hair. Her voice implied she'd said that sentence many times. At 6, someone knocked. A young attendant, polite, eyes down. Signorina Ricci, I'm to escort you to the gallery space. The gallery on the second floor took my breath. High ceilings, perfect lighting, walls painted warm neutral so the pieces could sing, sculptures, canvases, mixed media, contemporary Italian work that pulsed with risk and emotion. Alessio appeared beside me as if he'd been there the whole time. You look like you might run, he murmured. I haven't done this at this level, I admitted. You have, he corrected. Just not with these price tags. He handed me champagne. You know art, they know money. Help them connect the two. The doors opened. The room filled. Men in suits that fit like armor. Women wearing diamonds like punctuation. Voices smooth with status. Alessio introduced me to the first guest with effortless authority, and then I was doing it. Talking about technique, symbolism, history, what a piece meant beyond the number attached to it. I watched people soften when they realized I wasn't selling them a product. I was giving them a story they could live inside. For hours, fear loosened its grip, and then I felt it, that prickle on the back of my neck, being watched. Alessio stood across the room, speaking to someone important, but his eyes were on me. Not lust, not ownership, something sharper, like he was recalculating what he'd assumed about me. When our gazes met, he looked away instantly, returning to his conversation without a flicker. The night ended with 3 pieces sold and half a dozen serious buyers promising follow-up. When the last guest left, the space exhaled. Alessio offered me wine this time. You were exceptional. I was terrified, I said, sinking onto a leather sofa and slipping off the heels. I know, he replied. That's why it mattered. He studied the remaining pieces in silence, then asked casually, Did your ex ever respect what you loved? The question was too precise to be casual. He thought it was useless, I said, voice bitter before I could stop it. A hobby, something cute. He wanted practical, money, and yet he had neither originality nor courage, Alessio said, tone mild, judgment lethal. I laughed, quiet, brittle. Exactly. He watched me for a moment, then stood. Rest tomorrow. Next event is Saturday. As he moved to leave, I stopped him. Why are you really doing this? Alessio turned back, and for a second, something vulnerable slipped through his control. Because I'm tired of watching men ruin beautiful things, and I'm curious what happens when one of those beautiful things refuses to break. Then he left me alone with questions and the strange, dangerous comfort of being seen. Morning brought messages from unknown numbers, Gregor finding loopholes like a man picking locks. Some were pleading, some were accusing. One said, I saw you last night. My blood went cold. He'd been close enough to see the dress. A note arrived with breakfast. Security escorted him out at 6 a.m. He tried to claim he was your husband. He's banned from the property. If he continues, I have resources beyond hotel security. Resources beyond. I read that phrase 3 times. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. When Alessio found me later in the gallery, dressed down in a sweater and jeans, he asked me directly. No softness, no avoidance. Has he hit you? My breath caught. Not exactly. What does not exactly mean? I showed him the bruises. His jaw tightened. He took photos with his phone without asking, and before I could object, he said, Evidence. For what? For what comes next. He answered, voice like steel wrapped in velvet. I can offer you protection, the kind that changes a man's behavior. My stomach twisted. Illegal protection. Alessio's eyes held mine. Call it consequences. I'm not interested in hurting him. I'm interested in teaching him that pursuing you costs more than he can afford. The satisfaction that moved through me was dark and unfamiliar. I should have been disgusted. Instead, I found myself saying, I need to think, he allowed. But understand, once I involve myself like that, it isn't casual. If I do this, you become my responsibility. The wording hit wrong. Ownership adjacent, protective in a way that could turn sharp. My responsibility? I echoed. He corrected, softer, my decision. And somehow that felt different. I didn't decide that day. Not fully. But that night, Gregor called from another number and said, in a voice that made my skin crawl, if I can't have you, I'll make sure no one else does. I hung up shaking and I called Alessio. He answered on the first ring. Tell me. When I told him, he said quietly, tomorrow becomes tonight. And then, pack a bag. You're coming to my home. It's safer than the suite. It should have felt like trading one cage for another. But when he added, use the lock on the guest room if you want. I won't be offended. I'm not him. Something inside me, something Gregor had nearly erased, believed him. I packed with hands that still trembled, and followed Alessio Lombardi into a world where safety had teeth. His home wasn't a mansion. It was worse, in the sense that it was real. A converted industrial building in Porta Romana with a private elevator that required a key card and a fingerprint. Security that made my stomach tighten until I realized the tightening was relief, not fear. The doors opened into a loft split over 2 levels. Brick walls, steel beams, enormous windows that made Milan look like it belonged to him. But unlike the hotel's staged perfection, this space felt lived in. Books stacked on tables, art chosen because someone loved it, not because it matched a designer's concept. A throw blanket thrown, not placed. Welcome, Alessio said, as if he'd brought women here 100 times. Then he corrected himself with a slight pause. This is my sanctuary. A massive gray tabby appeared like a silent judge, tail flicking, eyes narrowed. That's Dante, Alessio said. The affection in his voice surprised me. He's terrible. He's also mine. The cat ignored Alessio and rubbed against my ankles like I'd already been approved. I bent to scratch behind his ears. He purred, loud and satisfied. Alessio stared, mildly offended. Traitor. I laughed, an actual laugh. The sound startled me as much as it startled him. Upstairs, the guest room was minimalist and calm. A lock on the inside. A private bathroom. A bookshelf stuffed with everything from philosophy to pulp crime novels. I never know what I'll want to read, Alessio explained. So I buy everything. How many books do you have? He considered. 3,000, give or take. He spoke about books like they were oxygen, like escape, like a way to live lives that weren't complicated by control and consequences. When I asked him again what he really did beyond hotels, he didn't pretend. I exist in gray, he said. I own legitimate businesses, and I facilitate transactions. His eyes held mine. I'm not a saint. I'm not a monster. I draw lines. And Gregor? I asked. Where does he fall? On the wrong side. He told me his plan without theatrics. Information, not fists. Evidence of fraud in Gregor's father's business. Enough to ruin them. Enough to make Gregor's obsession expensive. You're blackmailing him, I said. Half accusation, half awe. I'm teaching him consequence, Alessio corrected. He threatened you. That escalates the lesson. It felt wrong to feel satisfied, but I did. We ate dinner in his kitchen, pasta that tasted like comfort I didn't deserve. Dante supervised like an emperor. The conversation, art, politics, Milan's ridiculous elite, flowed like I hadn't been living under a constant chokehold for a year and a half. That night, my phone was silent. Unknown numbers blocked. But fear doesn't vanish because your screen is quiet. It waits in your body, in your muscles, in the way you flinch at footsteps. The next afternoon, my old boss called from the gallery. Gregor had shown up. He'd torn through the storage room looking for something, anything, like a man searching for proof I still belonged to him. He left a note, she said. My throat tightened. Read it. You can't hide from love. I know where you sleep now. See you tonight. The room tilted. Alessio's voice on the phone was immediate, cold. Lock yourself in the guest room. I'm sending someone. His name is Marco. Within minutes, the elevator chimed. Alessio arrived with a man built like a warning. Bald, scar above his left eye, professional calm, armed, not to threaten me, to keep me alive. You're not going to tonight's event, Alessio said. This isn't optional, but my job, your job is staying alive, he snapped, then softened by a fraction. Gregor is escalating. That changes my approach. What does that mean? It means I'm finished being polite. He left with the promise. Stay with Marco. I'll be back before morning. Marco turned out to be, unexpectedly, human. He read a battered mystery novel and talked about his sister, like she was the reason he'd chosen loyalty over freedom. Signor Lombardi helped, Marco said, as if it explained everything. The kind of help you don't forget. Later, his tablet chimed. Motion sensors. Someone at the entrance. Gregor. I saw him from the guest room window, pacing like a predator denied a gate, looking up at the building as if he could will the door to open. My phone rang. Alessio. Stay away from the glass. Don't let him confirm. What will you do? I whispered. Have a conversation, he remembers. I stayed on the phone as Alessio arrived below in a sleek black car, flanked by men who moved like trained patients. Gregor turned, confident at first, then confused, then defensive. Alessio's voice was calm enough to be terrifying. Gregor Sokolov, you've been stalking Valentina Ricci. That ends tonight. She's my girlfriend, Gregor snapped. I have rights. You have nothing, Alessio said, and even through a phone speaker it sounded like a verdict. Gregor tried the usual script. She's confused. She needs help. I love her. Until Alessio cut through it like a blade. What you feel isn't love, Alessio said. Love doesn't leave bruises. Love doesn't threaten. Love doesn't demand ownership. Then he handed Gregor a tablet. I couldn't see what was on it from above, but I saw the result. Gregor's face draining, his hands shaking, his certainty cracking. Tax fraud, customs violations, money laundering, Alessio listed conversationally. A dossier. A full one goes to the authorities tomorrow morning unless you walk away. You're bluffing, Gregor said weakly. I don't bluff, Alessio replied. Gregor cried. Actual sobs. The kind that once would have pulled me back into his arms. Now they sounded like a man losing his toy and calling it heartbreak. I can change, Gregor choked out. She doesn't want you to change, Alessio said. She wants you to leave her alone. 24 hours. That was the offer. Walk away and keep your life. Keep chasing and lose everything. When Alessio returned upstairs, he looked tired for the first time, like control had weight. I didn't threaten violence, he said, reading my face. Violence makes men like him victims in their own story. I took away the only language he respects, consequence. Is it over? I asked. It's over if he chooses it, he answered. Come, sit. He told me about his mother, about his father, about fear disguised as tradition, about watching a woman shrink until there was nothing left. I can't save everyone, he said. But I refuse to watch men like that win when I can stop them. For the first time in months, my chest loosened. Not because Gregor was gone, because someone finally treated my fear like it mattered. Because I wasn't being told I was dramatic. I wasn't being told I was difficult. I wasn't being told I was lucky someone put up with me. I was being told I was worth protecting. And that was its own kind of shock. 3 weeks passed like a different lifetime. Events at the hotel, conversations that reminded me I had a brain, a voice, a skill beyond surviving, mornings waking without dread, nights where Milan glittered outside Alessio's windows, and I didn't feel hunted. Gregor left the day after the ultimatum. No goodbye, no final speech, just absence. The relief should have been complete. Instead, I found myself waiting for disaster, like a muscle memory. On my final day, Alessio watched me push food around my plate and said quietly, "You keep expecting the floor to collapse." "Can you blame me?" I muttered. "Nothing about what you did was easy," he said. Leaving him, staying visible, rebuilding yourself in front of the world. I'm just surviving. Surviving is extraordinary when the alternative is surrender, he replied. Then he made me an offer. A real job, not a 3-week arrangement. A position, cultural liaison across his properties. Curating, hosting, connecting. A salary that meant independence, benefits, an apartment of my own. "I want you to stay," he admitted, and there was something unguarded in the way he said it. "Not because you owe me, because you're good at this, because you belong in rooms like these, and because I've enjoyed having you in my life." I didn't answer right away. I wanted to. But freedom means choosing without fear of punishment if you choose wrong, and I was still learning how to trust choice. That night, our last event, a charity auction, elegant and loud with money. I wore the midnight blue dress again on purpose. Not because it was pretty, because 3 weeks earlier, Gregor watched me from the rain like a threat. Tonight, I wore it like a statement. I found Alessio near the end of the evening, and the words came out before I could stop them. "Yes," I said. "To the job, to the apartment, I want to stay." His face changed, controlled joy, quiet relief. "You're sure?" "Terrified," I admitted, "but sure." The next day, Gregor messaged from another number, softer this time, reasonable, dangerous, 10 minutes, closure. The cafe from our first date. Marco called it a trap immediately. Alessio agreed, but I needed the final proof, not for him, for me. The last shard of doubt lodged under my ribs. So we made terms. Not a public cafe. The hotel cafe. Security nearby. Cameras on. Alessio watching. 10 minutes. No more. Gregor arrived looking thinner, older, as if obsession had been eating him alive. He tried the new script. Therapy, regret, insight. I didn't let him tell his story in a way that erased mine. What went wrong, I said calmly, is that you thought love meant ownership. You put your hands on me. You threatened me. You ignored no. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Then he reached for my arm like muscle memory. Marco was there before his fingers could touch skin. The lady said, "You're done," Marco told him quietly. Gregor's shoulders collapsed. "I'm trying to change," he whispered. "Small. I hope you succeed," I said. "And I meant it the way you mean it when you're walking away from a fire. But I won't be collateral damage in your journey." He left, and I felt nothing dramatic, just certainty. Alessio appeared beside me like he'd been there the whole time. "How do you feel?" "Free," I said, surprised by how true it was. He took me to the rooftop garden. Cold air, big sky, Milan spread beneath us like a living thing. He told me, carefully, respectfully, that he wanted to know me beyond contracts, beyond protection, that he would wait, that friendship was enough to start, that he wouldn't cage me the way Gregor had. "I'm patient," he said softly, "and you're worth waiting for." For the first time in a long time, tears came without shame. "I'd like that," I whispered. "Time, friendship, we see what it becomes." Alessio held out his hand, echoing our first deal. Only this time I understood what I was choosing. Not safety bought by surrender. Not freedom bought by loneliness. A life built by choice. 3 weeks ago, I ran into a luxury hotel with wet money and a bruised arm, hoping a locked door could hold back a man who believed he owned me. Now, I stood above the city with my own apartment waiting, a real job, a future with edges I could shape, and the quiet, fierce knowledge that I had saved myself, and no one would ever take that from me again.